to episode 16 of the NoodlKnits Podcast. I'm Z, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as NoodlKnits. I'm also on Facebook as NoodlKnits, and there's a Ravelry group for the podcast that is NoodlKnits Podcast in the groups tab. There, I'm on Etsy as NoodlKnits, and if you need to find show notes, they can be found at noodleknits.wordpress.com. I will have most of that, if not all of it, linked in the down bar if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're watching on the blog, all of that can be found somewhere on the blog. It's all like there and linked, and that's it. I tried to make it easy, so I kind of tried to make everything be NoodlKnits when I decided to start this journey. I thought it would just be easier if everything was NoodlKnits, so that it would be super easy to find me across all platforms. If you're a new viewer, thank you so much for tuning in. Please go and introduce yourself on the Ravelry group. I'd love to hear from you and know how you found me. I think that's really interesting to hear, and I love meeting new people. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I probably say this too often, but you're really the reason why I keep coming back to do this, because I figure someone's interested and I don't want to leave them hanging. So, just a little bit of background on me, because I haven't done this in a very long time. I am, and I figured, for any new viewers who don't know, I live in Louisiana, in the country. I live way out in the country, with my, excuse me for the sniffling. My allergies have been bugging me in the mornings. Anyways, I live in the country of Louisiana with my husband and our son. So if you've heard of Duck Dynasty or anything, we live in that area. I stay at home, the stay-at-home mom, and I love to knit. So there's a little bit of background. The high today is 93 in October. And it's driving me crazy because it's been a lot of up and down. I think about 2 weeks ago it got down to 70 something, 70 mid to high 70s, and then it just skyrocketed back up to mid to high 80s and 90s. And today the high is 98.3. But when I woke up this morning, it was 55 outside. It was just kind of strange for it to actually be that cold on a day that it's supposed to get hot. And then it's supposed to be 97 tomorrow and then drop down to 70s, which is really what's got my allergies messed up in the mornings. And then my husband and son's allergies are kind of messed up just all throughout the day because of the up and down. And I think we're all really ready for it to be full-fledged fall and winter. So why don't you guys tell me in the Ravelry group on the thread for this episode what the weather is like where you are, because I think that's really interesting. I think it's really interesting that when we're having dead heat summer here, it's like snowing and freezing in Australia because it's winter. So I find that stuff really interesting. So pop over to the thread for this episode on the Ravelry group and tell me what's the weather like where you are, and if it's fall there and not spring, do you have any fun fall traditions that you do with your family? What are you knitting for fall or winter? Are you getting ready for winter? Are you doing Christmas knitting? Tell me about it. I'd love to hear it. I love to hear traditions from other places, countries, walks of life, everything. I find human culture to be very, very interesting. So, okay, enough of that silly little thing. So let's move on with the show. First off, I have some FOs. I'm so sorry. There's going to be some throat clearing. I know there was a lot last week. I'll try to keep it to a minimum or edit out whatever I can. But there is going to be some, throat clearing and sniffling. But sorry, guys. Okay, so FOs. The first FO this week is, all of my FOs this week are not things that I was working on last week. So there's that. Okay, so now, the first one is this garter ear flap hat by Pearl Soho. That's the pattern. This is kind of all wiggly because that was actually yarn that had been knitted and ripped out, and it was all kinked up from being knitted, and so whenever I turned it into a tassel, it could probably use a wash. But this pattern calls for worsted weight yarn, and probably do it on like a size 7 needle or something, or size 8. I don't remember because I didn't really read the specifications. I've made this hat 2 times before, and it's really super easy and quick and fun, so I wanted to do it again. So I went stash diving and found this yarn in stash. It is NoodlKnits Brava Bulky. So this hat is kind of stiff, and it is a pretty tight knit. Look at that, kind of stiff. It's a pretty tight knit hat. I knit it on a US 7, and it's really squishy and thick, so it'll be really warm, which I figure is probably good because like all the news people and pretty much anybody you talk to lately has been saying that it's supposed to be a bad winter this year. So this baby is coming right around winter because, so I figured it couldn't hurt to have a nice thick warm hat. So anyways, I followed the pattern otherwise perfectly, and it's just really thick. I think the color on this yarn is Sky. I'm not entirely sure because I bought this yarn like back around Easter. If you follow me on Instagram, you can scroll back and see that originally out of this yarn, I had knit a hat with bunny ears for Tyler's cousin's son. We're pretty close to them, and she had asked, it was his first Easter, and she had asked if I could make him a bunny ear hat, and so I did, and I used this. And so if you want to scroll back and see that, it was really cute and it was fun to make. It was really quick too. So I just used up pretty much what was left of this. I don't think there was very much left, if any. I know that there was some left. It wasn't really enough to do anything with, and I don't have it with me, so I can't show you how much was left. But so that was stash, and like I said, it was NoodlKnits Brava Bulky and a US 7 needle. Which I used, which is a 4.5 millimeter, and I used the ChowGoo 12-inch ChowGoo needles with a 12-inch cord. So that's what I used for that, which was, I liked having the small needle because then I had to change to the DPNs. I didn't have to change to the DPNs as quickly as I would if I was using a 16-inch, and I don't dislike using DPNs, but the DPNs I currently have for like in all sizes, the only DPNs I don't have that are this long are my sock set from Knitter's Pride, and those are only 5-inch. Those are literally like for socks or mittens, small things. So all of the other DPNs I have are just the NoodlKnits DPNs, and when I first started ordering DPNs, I didn't really know what size I needed, and so I went with the bigger size just in case. So, I mean length. So all of the like DPNs I have for other sizes other than little projects like socks and mittens are 8-inch DPNs. So they are really long. I have, ooh, don't pull that out. I have Rowan's stocking here. I wasn't going to show it this week, but I can show you how long the DPNs are. They're like when you get to where you have like 4 or 5 of them that you're using, it gets to be really fiddly because they're kind of like all around just like trying to stab you and get in your way because they're so long. And NoodlKnits sells 6-inch ones, and I wish I had got the 6-inch ones because for hats and stuff where you're knitting in the round on a 16-inch circular until, you know, you get to crown shaping, and then it's just like switch to DPNs whenever it gets too small. It's a pain in the butt to have like 18 or 12 stitches on your needles and have to be using these really long DPNs, and all of my DPNs are that long. So from now on, I'll probably just be buying 6-inch unless I know specifically that the DPNs are for something that's gonna need the longer DPN. But anyways, sorry for that little rant. So anyways, there's my first info. Sorry for the rant. The second one is the traveling cable hat by Pearl Soho. Two Pearl Soho patterns. It is, okay, they have the traveling cable hat, which is in the like alpaca pure or something. And then they have the traveling cable fingerless gloves, which are made out of like a merino silk blend or something like that, sport weight. And then they have a traveling cable hat that is made out of their super soft merino, and which is like a super chunky yarn and is sized for kids. So that's what I did for here, because I wanted to make my nephew a hat, because the hat that I made him last year got a lot of wear. When it was chilly, he would keep it on his head, and it got a lot of wear out of it. So I figured he probably grew out of that. So I wanted to make him another hat for this year. And I decided this pattern because I know my sister-in-law likes cables, and I chose the green because I had green and blue, and I let Rowan pick, and he said green for Michael Sean. So there's that. It is not perfect on this side. Down here at the beginning, there was a little mess up. And also, whenever I was knitting along, I came across this really ugly mess up, and it was something that I could not ignore. This is subtle enough down here. Like, you can kind of see there's a break in it right there, but that is subtle enough to me that it doesn't drive me up a wall. This other mess up I had was terrible, and I had to rip back I was at the row right before the crown decreases, and I had to rip back, which was like row 14, and then I had to rip back to row 8 so that I could fix that. And ripping back cables is the worst. It was so awful. It was so irritating. But this was a really fast knit because it's chunky yarn. So this, I used Knit Picks Big O, which is 50% merino wool superwash and 50% nylon. And it is the green tea heather colorway, which is showing up pretty much true to color. I guess the early morning light is good for that. But yeah. And I did not follow pattern perfectly. I did follow the pattern itself perfectly, but the yarn recommendations and stuff, obviously I didn't, because Pearl Soho is kind of pricey. And this I had on hand. This I've almost had for a year. And the pattern calls for that super chunky yarn and a US 11 and a US 13. So US 11 for the ribbing and a 13 for the body of the hat. And I don't have a US 13 circular. Plus the yarn, the Big O, is not super chunky. It's just regular chunky. So I just used an 11 for the whole thing. And it turned out to be a pretty loose knit on that size needle. But I think since it's wool, like it's an actual wool hat, or at least 50% wool, it'll be pretty warm even with the looser knit. So I did a 4-inch 2x2 rib for the cuff, which this pattern was a little strange because they had you cast on a number of stitches that wasn't going to perfectly do 2x2 rib all the way around. So you end up with like, and then the way they wrote it was like purl 3 knit to purl 1 or something weird. And when I got there to do that part right here at this end, it wasn't going to work. I was like, what are they talking about? That's not enough. I don't have enough stitches for that. And I double checked all my stitches and I cast on the right amount and everything, so I have no idea. So I just did a knit 2 or a purl 2 knit 1 purl 1, and then knit 2 is the beginning. So it was purl 2 knit 2 ribbing, and then when you get to the end you've got like just this 1 by 1 for whatever reason. I don't know why they had to cast on like that, because then they have you do increases after. So I just did it all in the same size because there was increases after the ribbing, so I figured it would be all right. But I was like, why wouldn't they just have you cast on the right number for 2x2 rib and then increased to where you have enough stitches for the cables, but I don't know, whatever. Then anyways, then it has this rolled brim, which I've never done a rolled brim before. I think I'll do one for Rowan. It's really cute. Kind of makes it like a fisherman's hat, I think, with the cables and that's the back, and the rolled brim. And then on the sides, it's just got these like regular cables. But yeah, that was fun until I messed up and had to rip back. It doesn't feel like it's fully dry. I kind of washed it yesterday and it didn't get fully dry. I threw it in the dryer, so I don't know if you can tell. It felt it a tiny bit, but it's not really super noticeable that it did. But I just threw it in the dryer because I couldn't remember how I washed Rowan's gnome hat, and Rowan's gnome hat grew a lot, so I was trying to see if this would, because I tried this on Rowan, and it fits him, but it is stretched to the max on him. Okay, my nephew's head is a little bit smaller than Rowan's. I think it'll be good for him. I'm hoping, praying, especially since it gets on Rowan's head. It's just really stretched out and tight. I think it'll get on my nephew's head a little bit easier. So anyways, but I was trying to see if it would grow, and it didn't seem to grow that much in the wash, so I went ahead, threw it in the dryer, and I think because I had it in a lingerie bag, because with the wash, because I didn't want it to get beat up by my clothes, I think it kind of if I came out of the dryer and it was folded like this, and so I think this side got too much dryer and then this side didn't, so this side came out a little bit wet and this side got a little bit tiny bit felted, but it's not a big deal. You can't really tell. I mean, you can still see the stitches really clearly. It doesn't even show up on camera that it's a little bit felted. It's just to your eyes you can see that it's a little bit fuzzy and blurry, if that makes any sense. But I'm pretty sure my sister-in-law is gonna wash it, throw it in the dryer for easy sake, so I don't think it should be a big deal, hopefully. Anyways, these two things went into the DCS, the Down Cellar Studio Pigskin Party as two FOs, and they were both special teams because I used really old stash yarn for both of them. Well, this one was really old, this one was just old. So there's that. I'm really excited to give that to her because I'm really hoping she really does like the cables. And I mean, it's so cute. Doesn't it look looks like a little fisherman hat with the rolled brim and all of the cables. So there's that. I have one other FO, but I'll show it in Smooshy Goodness. Well, new segment mixed with Smooshy Goodness. So, onto whips. This week I worked a tiny bit on the little Tushy socks. I'm going to go ahead and show them. I haven't shown them in a while, and if there's a new viewer. I don't know where I was last time. I didn't use a progress keeper. Sorry, guys, but they are. And I don't have that much more to go on the foot before I do toe decreases. So I guess I actually got a little bit more done than I was thinking I did. And for those of you who haven't seen it, here is the other sock. I am doing 44 stitches, 1 by 1 rib for about 1.5 inches, and then I don't know how long the cuff is. I think maybe 3 inches or so, and then a contrast fish lips kiss heel. And then on this one, the foot I made a little too long. The toe's a little bit loose, but it's not a big deal. And so I'm just going to do the same thing on the other one. And I'm making them opposite. They're fraternal socks. So I am using a 2.75, I believe, millimeter needle. I thought that these said, but I don't think they do. No, they don't. I think it's a 2.75. So it's a 2. It's a US 2. And it's a 9-inch circular. And that's what I'm doing for that. And hopefully I'll kick my butt into gear and finish that up this week or something. We'll see. And my other whip I cast on yesterday. This isn't my only other whip, but I don't know. Whatever. I cast this one on yesterday. Another Pearl Soho pattern. This is the Traveling Cable Fingerless Gloves. I bought this yarn almost a year ago, specifically to make fingerless gloves, and I had picked out this pattern and then cast it on and somehow lost momentum and ended up just recently I ripped it back, and because I found that I had taken the needles out of it because I needed the needles for something else, and then I ripped back the pattern because I was like into the cable section. I wasn't gonna like go count through and pick up the stitches and figure out where I was, and then I was like, maybe I'll make a different pattern, and then I decided to just make that pattern again. So I ripped it out and cast back on the same pattern. Before I was using DPNs, now I'm using a 12-inch circular, and it's going super fast, even with cables and everything. Like, I got the ribbing done really quickly, but that's where I am. You can see I've started the cabling. It's about 2 inches of rib, which I think the pattern says 1.5 inches, but I went for 2 inches, and I've started the cables. And yeah, and that yarn is showing pretty much to true color. You can see it's kind of a heather. It is called Wonderland Heather, and this is Knit Picks Swish, which is 100% superwash merino. It's nice and soft. And the back of the mittens, like where your palm is all ribbed, which I kind of like. I think that's a cool feature. And I'm using, the pattern calls for sport weight and a US 4 needle. Don't have a US 4 in any kind of needle right now. I do not even own a US 4 at all. But before I had, but this is a worsted weight. So before I had cast on my US 5 DPNs, and so I was like, well, I liked the fabric that was creating, so I'll just do that again, cast on US 5. But I wanted to get a circular because I'm not really on a DPN kick right now. Plus, I'd have to get different DPNs because I did not want to work on this with my giant DPNs again. So, but yeah, I'm kind of on a circular kick, and so I guess the DPNs are kind of driving me crazy lately. Poor DPNs. So this is a 12-inch circular. It's ChowGoo. It's US 5, which is a 3.75 millimeter, and worsted weight yarn. And I just cast on all the amount of stitches it said, which is like 52. Oh, 52. Yeah, I think 52, and just following the pattern straight after that. So it'll probably make bigger. They'll be bigger, I guess, than like what the pattern calls for. Like the sizing will be probably a little bit wrong. But if I try them on, they fit. Which actually this will be like way farther down because there's a bunch of cabling before you actually do the thumb gusset in for the hand. So, but they fit, and they fit comfortably. They're not tight. They're not like super loose or anything. So that's what I like about ribbing, is that you can make it a little bit bigger than you need it, and the ribbing will kind of cinch it up for you. And also vice versa, you can make it a little bit smaller than you need it, and the ribbing will help it stretch. So yeah, there's that. I'm excited to have some fingerless gloves though for myself, because I've never had any. I've never made myself anything like that, and I usually don't wear mittens or gloves or anything, and then my hands are freezing, and I'm like complaining that my hands are freezing, and I'm making my husband hold my hand because he's like always warm. So I think the fingerless gloves will help me a little bit. Moving on. Like I said, I am still working on row and stocking. I did get a little bit done, I guess, at some point this week. I don't remember when. Not that you can really tell. I haven't put a stitch marker on it or anything. It looks super plain right now, but I'm going to embroider an R on there really big for him. And I've still got a ways to go on the cuff. I'm going to go ahead and talk about this for a second because I haven't talked about it in a while. I am not following a pattern for this. These are about to drop stitches. There we go. I'm not following a pattern. I just figured it's super easy. It's a sock. It's just a giant sock. So I'm going to line it with fabric because just, with anything knitted, if you fill it with stuff, it's just going to sag because knitting is stretchy. So I'm going to line it with some fabric that I have to get, and when I'm done, obviously. And I'm using Knit Picks Mighty Stitch, which is 80% wool, 20% acrylic, I think. And it's really nice and soft to work with. And this is Oyster colorway, and this is Pomegranate. And I just cast on 72 stitches on US 5 DPNs, which I think actually when I'm done with the fingerless gloves, I'll change it over, or I might get a 16-inch. I don't know. But like I said, I've already talked at length about the extra long DPNs that are driving me crazy, so I think I might get a 16-inch circular to finish this off. Plus then it would just fly off of the needles. Circulars, for me, like circular knitting, on a circular, not, like on Magic Loop or DPNs, I can just whip stuff out, obviously, because I got 2 hats done this week. I can just kind of like throw stuff. I could have gotten more hats done this week if I had wanted to, really. But anyway, so I'm thinking I might do that, and this will fit on a 16-inch. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I've been kind of procrastinating this. I think just because it's plain stockinette stitch all in the same color over and over and over again, and I have to go for several inches before it'll be good for the heel. And then I'm just going to do a fish lips kiss heel, and then just do the foot. And the foot can be significantly shorter than the cuff because it's a stocking. And if you think about a stocking, the foot usually isn't like proportionate to the cuff. So there's that. And then I'm going to do the heel and toe in the same color I did that cuff. So there's that. And I did do a little bit of work on it. I just haven't done much. And I think I did that work on it like last week. I don't think I've really touched it this week. But I have until Christmas. Well, really, until Thanksgiving, because I want to decorate around Thanksgiving. So I have really until Thanksgiving to get that done before I have to hang it up on the mantle. And then I've got this that I cast on last week, my sister's cowl, and I haven't worked on that at all this week because I'm super procrastinating those projects because I'm really not interested in working on them right now. I think the yarn isn't really my favorite, and I kind of burnt myself out on that yarn with Little Ava. I need to get them done. I just don't want to. I just don't want to work on it. So that's all my whips. I actually told you about literally every single one, and I wasn't planning on it. Anyways, on to new segment plus Smooshy Goodness. Just know that this new segment comes because of the Smooshy Goodness. So I'm adding a new segment called Spinning. Yay! Okay, so first let's talk about Smooshy Goodness, I guess, before we really get into spinning. I've got in the mail, I told you guys last week that I was really hoping that my spindle would come in. It came in on Friday. Or Saturday? It came in on Saturday. And it is from Hilltop Cloud. This is all like folded because it's been in my bag. Came from Hilltop Cloud. This is the instruction book, which I read through but didn't really need because I think I told you guys last week I've been watching a ridiculous amount of YouTube videos on spinning beforehand. So there's that. They have an Etsy shop and they have a website. Here's the website, if you can see it. Okay, so it was a beginner's kit that I got. And it came with a handmade spindle, basic top whorl spindle. Nothing special, not like decorative or anything. It's nice though. I've wished this was a little bit smoother, I think. But, because it would catch the fiber sometimes, but it's not a big deal. So there you go. Basic top whorl, handmade spindle. And then it came with 50 grams rare breed North Ronaldsay. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's RONADALD, SAY. So like Ronald Say. Ronald C. I don't know. Okay, but came with 50 grams. And I really liked what they did. They had the 50 grams in 2 separate balls. So it was like 25 gram ball, 25 gram ball. And so whenever you spun it, you could spin like one half and then spin the other half and then ply them. So this is what I got. Isn't it pretty? This is my other finished object. And it's pretty. And I'm not going to dye it. I had someone ask and no. I'm going to leave it because I like the way it turned out, and like I don't think the camera's going to pick up on it, but it's got like little hairs that are darker color and stuff, and so it just turned out really nice. It's soft. It's not like as soft as a merino or anything, but it's not itchy, and also the instructions and stuff, and like on their website, if you look at it, it says that they included the wool that they included because it's better for beginners to start with a more woolly wool than like a merino. And actually my friend had told me that the merino will kind of just slip through your fingers and it's hard to spin. So, like, right off the bat when you're learning. So, but I like it. I think by my rough measurements here, what I did was I wrapped it around the back of one of my chairs, like along the top of the back of one of my chairs, my dining chairs. And I was just doing that to be able to get it into a skein. And then so when it was wrapped, I took a tape measure and like went all the way around the back of one of my chairs just to measure like how many inches it is for like a full wrap around the back of one of my chairs. And from that like really, really rough measurement, which is probably the worst way to measure it and probably isn't very accurate at all, I think I've got about 57 yards. So I'm thinking about making Rowan a hat out of it. It'll be like and then it'll be a really special hat because it'll be like an heirloom keepsake hat. But I'm thinking about doing the brim and the super. I have, like I said, I had green and blue in the superwash merino nylon mix, and so I'm thinking about doing the brim in that because this is a pretty bulky yarn, if you can see that. I'm thinking about doing the brim, like the ribbing, and I don't know, we'll see. Maybe the decreases in that, and then just doing the rest of the hat in this. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think I want this right on his ears, so that's why I'm also thinking about using a different yarn for the brim, so that the brim will be on his ears and this won't be. Just because, like I said, it's really not super soft. It wouldn't irritate me, but he's got really sensitive skin, so I'm worried it would irritate him. It is obviously not perfect. You can see places where it's thick and thin, and where thin yarn got plied with thick yarn, but for the most part, it's pretty darn good, and I'm really proud of it. I'm like really, really proud of it. Now I need to get more fiber to spin, because this was all the fiber. This is what came with it, and I didn't have any like on hand or anything, because I was in a spinner beforehand, but I really love that. I love it so much. And it was so much fun. I spinned all 50 grams and plied it in one day. Okay, so I checked the mail at like noon-ish, and the package was in my mailbox at like noon-ish, and brought it inside and immediately ripped it open, started spinning, and I had completely spinned and plied all of it by like 6:30ish. So, yeah, I got it done, which kind of sucks because I was kind of hoping to show you guys with it like a little bit of it on the spindle, but it was just so addicting and fun that I couldn't stop. So now I need to get more fiber to spin. But that was a lot of fun, so there's that. That's all for spinning and smooshy goodness. And I think that's all I've got this week, really. So yeah, I don't really have any chatter this week. We haven't really done anything, so I'm really looking forward to this weekend. It's supposed to be really nice weather. I'm looking forward to it, but I also think that it's really gonna throw Tyler and Rowan's allergies like way out of whack, so I hope it doesn't, but I am looking forward to the nice cooler weekend. Rowan's been wanting to play outside, so, and I've been listening to Serial Dynasty, which if you have listened to the Serial podcast, and if you listen to Undisclosed, you'll like Serial Dynasty. I started listening to Serial Dynasty because they talk about it on Undisclosed, and it is not a knitting podcast. It is a true crime podcast, and it follows one single case. And I started listening to Serial Dynasty, and so I've been kind of binge listening to that to catch up. I really enjoy it. And I think that's it. I'm trying to think if I started watching any new knitting podcasts this week. I feel like I did start watching a new knitting podcast this week, but now I can't remember if I did or not. Or if there was any I want to talk about. Oh, okay. This is big. I have been asked by Claire Devine. This is coming late in the episode because I wrote the show notes late at night and I was tired. I should have said this at the opening, and I'll say it at the opening next week. But I have been asked by Claire Devine. She's a big knitwear designer. I'm sure you guys have heard of her, and if you haven't, you should check her out. She is coming out with a pattern collection. It's full of hats and cowls, but mostly hats. And it is the tea collection. And it's beautiful. The hats that she's got released so far are really gorgeous, and you can buy the collection now for about 15 something US. And if you buy it now, it has 7 patterns in it currently, and then she'll be releasing the rest of the patterns and you can just update it. But if you buy it later, after all the patterns are released, it's gonna be a good bit more expensive. And it's called the Tea Collection, and she is having a launch party kind of thing, and she's in the UK, and so they are doing a whole tea party at like a tea house kind of place, and they decided to also do a virtual tea party, and she has asked us to be a part of that. And on November 11th, I will do a guest post on her blog, which I think I'm going to do a video post, and I'm just going to talk about what tea means to me and my family, I guess, mostly just me. So that'll be there, and then she's doing the virtual knit along, and I think it's launching October 17th. I'm don't have all the complete details right now, but from what I can tell, the pattern collection is launching October 17th, and then so that's when the tea party will start. And so we've been asked to join that, and I think that's really exciting. I will post a thread, and it's not going to be like a really formal knit along or anything because it is paid for patterns. But if you want to join along and knit some hats from that collection, that would be really fun. And her blog is yarnandpointysticks.com, I think. Oh, goodness. I'll put it in the show notes. I didn't write it down in my show notes, but I'll put it in the show notes for this episode. So go check that out. Check out her blog. Check out her patterns. And I hope you guys like them and decide to knit some. I'm really excited for that. Okay, so that really is everything, I think. Okay. So you guys have a great week, and I hope you have plenty of time for knitting. Happy knitting. Bye.